Welcome to the podcast, Kill Complacency. Here we inspire intentional living by motivating others to handle hard better. And here's your host, Marty Hofmann.
It was really fun to go deep with Ben Bender on the second part of this podcast. It was fun to get into the things that influence us and how that plays a role in our intentionality as well. We've got to master those things as well. He had some good tips, good pointers, and I hope you guys get a lot out of this. And I hope it helps you guys be more intentional. Ben, this is flying by. I know that something you wrote in your message to us was about influence. You're intentional about your influence.
Ooh.
How are you intentional with what you allow yourself to be influenced with and whatnot?
That's such a good question. And part of the answer is this is an ongoing learning project for me. You know, like I thought it was kind of funny.
We just talked about failing, so
totally. I did kind of chuckle when you first asked me to be on the podcast because I was like, I think it's more like I'm killing complacency than I have killed complacency. But one of the ways in which I'm intentional with that
is a journey, man.
Yeah,
it always is. Like,
yeah.
I got up this morning and ran. I did not want to run.
Oh yeah, no.
I was like, no.
Yeah, I
do this, but it's like,
totally.
No, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So it's a daily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going, but it's a daily
Absolutely.
grind.
Absolutely. Man.
It may get easier because of the compound, and we see it, and we say, man, my muscles look good. Man, I'm losing weight. Man, I'm getting smarter, whatever. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it's easier.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest realizations that I had, and I say biggest realization, not because it's profound, but just because I don't think it had been present in mind for me before, is I was reading Ephesians 5. Paul talks about, don't be drunk with wine, which leads to debauchery, but instead be filled with the Spirit, singing and making melody in your hearts to the Lord in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. And for the longest time, I've read Ephesians, I don't know how many times. It's my favorite book. I've been in and out of the book 100 times. Love it. I'd always read that as just a commentary on moderation in alcohol use. So I'd always read it and been like, okay, don't get drunk, you know. And certainly that's part of it. You probably shouldn't be getting drunk. But I was reading it this past, I can't remember, fall or the spring. I was reading it recently, and the oddity of that verse stuck out to me for the first time because I realized the juxtaposition that Paul makes there initially doesn't really make sense. He says, don't be drunk with wine because that leads to debauchery. And that makes sense. Like we do stupid stuff when we're drunk. Like when your capacity is impaired, you're dumb, you know? So you make bad decisions. But then he says, instead, be filled with the Spirit. So for Paul, like the opposite of drunkenness is spirit-filledness, you know, however you say that. And I was like, that's weird. Cause I, you know, in my mind, I was like, the opposite of being drunk is being sober. Like the opposite of being, you know, having alcohol in you is not having alcohol in you.
Yeah.
And Paul says, no. The opposite of being drunk is being filled with the Spirit. It's not being empty. It's being filled with something different. Yeah. And so, because you can't operate out of a deficit. What are you doing when you're getting drunk? What are you doing when you're numbing yourself with substances? What are you doing when you're numbing yourself with social media, with TV, with whatever it is? You're filling a void. You're trying to account for a deficiency in your life, generally speaking. I think most therapists would probably agree with that. It's not enough to just cut that out. You got to fill it with something that actually heals rather than hinders. And so that led me to this phrase that's kind of become a motto of my life, which is what fills you forms you. Stuff you consume dictates the kind of person you become. And that's something that I always understood intuitively because of fitness. Like we get this on a physical level, like your diet, generally speaking, dictates your outcomes with fitness. So we have phrases like you can't outwork a bad diet, you know? Like if I'm going to the gym, but I'm eating bonbons every night, you know, I'm not going to see the gains that I want to see. You know, my body fat's not going to be where I want it to be.
But if you have a protein shake before,
it's
going to help.
It's going to help. Yeah. Because what fills you forms you. So you in the same way that you can't outwork a bad diet, you can't outread, you can't outpray bad spiritual disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where, and so I started noticing I just don't fill my life intentionally. I do some good practices. I do good things. I work out 5-6 times a week. I run 2 or 3 times a week. I'm doing all these things, but there are areas where I'm not filling my life intentionally. And one of those, for a couple of those for me, scrolling on social media, TV, and for a while alcohol use, if I'm being super honest.
Yeah.
I started noticing I get bored too easily and I revert to these things. So I spend time in unproductive ways. I'm not doing things that are blatantly immoral. I'm not getting drunk. I'm just reverting to these things too often. And so one of the big shifts that I made is, okay, if I'm at the gym, I'm going to listen to podcasts instead of music. I love music. Like, music is something I do. It's huge for me. But I would listen to music just because it was a way to just kind of shut off, so that I could get through my workout. And so I started being like, I'm going to listen to podcasts instead. Or I'm going to listen to a book. I'm going to do something that's actually feeding my soul, feeding my mind, feeding my emotions, rather than just turning me off for a bit. So that's one of the big shifts I made. Is I was like, okay, if what fills me forms me, then I got to be intentional with not just the stuff that I'm doing wrong, but the stuff that I'm not doing well.
Yeah. That's so good. And I like that you shifted to your content.
Yeah.
And nothing against music, but backstory on me, I recently made it so my social, I can't remember the name of the app, but you can get an app and it makes your social accounts not work.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm using my social accounts for business. That means they're available from, I think it's 8:30 a.m. to, no, it's 9:30 a.m. to 8:30 at night.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it'd be easy for me to get up, read my Bible, grab Facebook, and scroll for a little bit before I went for a run.
Totally.
But I could totally get out of that rut because for me, I listen to Audible when I go run.
Yeah.
If I was scrolling, and I put parameters in my life, so I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But if I would to go to Audible and turn it on, it would just drive me to the door.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's amazing how we can train our minds.
Yeah.
With content feeding.
Yeah.
Because we can be complacent and scroll. And I think that many lives are just being wasted with it. And I don't want to say there's not good stuff on there because there's a ton of stuff you can learn. Totally. But you can also just waste 51 minutes a day on Facebook.
Absolutely.
3 minutes at a time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I like that you did that. You switched. And I know, and maybe we'll talk about music for a sec.
Yeah.
Because I know you love music.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would do music while they work out. And you said something like you did that so you could just tune things out. Is that just so you don't have to think about it? You just start lifting and the music carries you through?
Yeah. 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 I found that it was a way for me to just be like, this workout's not going to feel like an hour and 15 minutes if I'm listening to music. Which I think this is kind of a side note. I think that's something we do all too often in culture, is like we have lost the ability to be with reality. Like why shouldn't an hour and 15 minutes feel like an hour and 15 minutes? It's good for that to feel like an hour and 15 minutes. It's good. But
we fill it up.
But I get bored. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm gonna turn off the clock by numbing myself. And which fundamentally is no different than what an addict does.
Correct.
Yeah. So our
escapism isn't a substance. It's whatever we've created it to be.
100%. And this is a realization I had a while back. Is we call it substance abuse. It's self-abuse. The substance doesn't care. Mm-hmm. The substance, I'm abusing myself. I don't love myself enough to sacrifice what I know is damaging. Mm-hmm. And so I had to get to that point where I was like, I'm abusing myself.
Yeah.
I am acting out of hatred toward myself because I am not willing to pursue the interest of what is best as opposed to what I want. And so I had to make that shift of like, social media doesn't care. Alcohol doesn't care. Music doesn't care. I care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm impacted. And I'm not treating myself well, which is not to be, I was really scared of the phrase self-love for a long time, but I was listening to Chad Beach talking about this. He said self-love is not self-absorption.
Yeah.
Self-absorption is what I got really frustrated with.
One of those things you got to define terms on.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing. You got to take care of yourself before you take care of others.
Right. That's a good thing. And that's what I wasn't doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just something I had to kind of make that shift of, I don't want to abuse myself.
Mm-hmm.
I want to treat myself well so I can treat other people well. But music is so interesting because that's something that is like a core part of who I am. Like I took piano lessons from the time I was 5 all the way through high school, led worship all the way through college. Kirsten and I lead worship on a weekly basis at our school, at our church. I've done the whole thing. Like I've played keys for bands, I've led bands, I've done all that stuff. And I love it so much. But it is really easy for that to become only an emotional thing. And that's something I've been getting convicted about too recently, is like, if ultimately my goal with worship leading and with ministry is to help kids rediscover holiness, which is what I want.
Yeah.
Like I want them to be in a relationship with God where holiness is the outcome. Then I've got to care about more than just how well I can play the piano. Like I've got to care more about how well I can sing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that respect, music becomes about way more than just the music.
Way more. And that perfection you're going for isn't going to necessarily drive them to holiness.
Yeah.
It may be the imperfection and kids seeing you're a real person with a heart for Jesus.
100%.
You know?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I love Romans 12, 1 says, offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. It says, this is your reasonable service. But I like the way, I think it's the Passion Translation. Passion Translation is very controversial. I don't necessarily recommend it. But there's the way that they phrase it is, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, experiencing all that delights his heart, for this becomes your genuine expression of worship. And I love that phrasing because it's like, that's really what worship is. You're experiencing all that God is, and then you are allowing that to become your expression of worship. You're responding to that in love. So you're experiencing God, you're expressing God.
Yeah.
That's worship. It's like, it's the receiving and the giving. It's reciprocal. And to actually honor God fully, you have to receive of his spirit. You have to receive, like you have to be awakened to the glory that is him.
Yeah.
And then you respond to that. So I loved that phrasing. And in that, I started realizing, okay, so if worship is both an experience and an expression, I'm experiencing God and I'm responding to that in whether I'm singing or praying or whatever it is, then worship is not just the production, but it's also the posture. And so that was a shift that I've been making, especially recently. Like we just finished a couple of weeks of leading at camp. And my biggest prayer for my band, and when we talked about this and prayed about this a lot leading up to the sets, is when I'm on stage, I want people to believe that I believe what I'm singing about. And I think that's maybe the most powerful thing you can ever do for your witness, is just live the kind of life where people are like, regardless of whether they agree with you, I believe he believes it.
Did you see the movie I Still Believe, Jeremy Camp?
Yes.
So emulating that is huge there.
Yeah.
Because when he sang that song, I Still Believe, is because he worked through those struggles himself.
Yeah. He meant every word of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In like a tragically visceral way.
Yeah. But it was the emotions of the loss and circling back to Jesus and knowing that through it all, he still believed and he was his rock. And so, I mean, I don't know the story of Jeremy Camp real well, but I would imagine he potentially probably took off at that point because, well, he was living his faith so much through all that. But
right.
But that song, I think, probably really helped him. serving the Lord better and
100%.
and whatnot, because it was
Yeah.
real, it was genuine.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, I remember hearing that song on Christian radio in Tulsa when I was a kid, and my dad resonating with it so much. And I think yeah, it resonated with people like my dad who had experienced loss, who had experienced tragedy,
And had worked through those things.
and worked through it. Yeah, for that reason, because that comes from a real place. And regardless of who agrees with him, Jeremy Camp believes what he's singing,
Yeah.
and that's huge. That posture of authenticity is just huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Let me ask you this, because going back to the fitness thing, you're somebody who's become highly intentional with your own fitness routine.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to watch. You just ran a 3:24 marathon. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But it's been more than that for you, because I follow you and your family on social media, and get to kind of keep up with what you guys are doing. And this is like a whole family thing now, whether it's business or fitness. How did that come to be not just a Marty Hofmann thing, but a Hoffman family thing?
Well, I think there's a few things. I think that number one, we should never underestimate our influence. We don't know who we're influencing and how.
Yeah.
And number two, a lot of it was honestly my wife Ginger, because we always did this thing called Walk for Life. It's we're actually getting more involved with it this year, but it's a fundraiser for pro-life organization every year in September. And we would always do it. It was a 5K. We would, wing it every year. We'd practice the week before.
Totally.
But Ginger, the one year, didn't stop, and she kept running. And I remember it was January and it was cold out and it was raining and she was running.
Yeah.
And Ginger is one of the most disciplined people I know.
Yeah.
And she understands compound effect and consistency, but she is not a natural runner. And so it is not natural for her.
Yeah.
And when I run, it's way more natural. It's easier for me than for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I watched her and I realized if she can do it, I can do it. And I was 41, fat. I was hurting every morning when I get out of bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knew I needed to do something. So I signed up for a marathon. But what happened, it's really cool. Our family is big on goals. I think, was it this year or last year? I'm looking at my daughter.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 of my kids all had these goals of we're going to run a mile a week or 2 miles a week because they saw Ginger and I doing it.
Yeah.
And that's why I started that by saying don't ever underestimate your influence, because people are watching. I mean, we think it's just our kids. There's lots of country songs about that.
Yeah.
I want to be like you, Dad, or whatever. But lots of people are watching.
Yeah.
And for me, it was kind of like you with your fitness. There was lots of compound effect. I started feeling better. I started eating different. I started doing business different. I started my day off right. And there was so many other compound effects. You feel confident. You get it's just all of it.
Yeah.
We could probably do a whole nother episode on the benefits of
Totally
working out every day. But
yeah.
It really compounded for me. I think my kids could see that. They all started doing it. I ran maybe 3-4 half marathons with my daughter Tirza.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's easy to compound, but I think the biggest thing, Ben, to answer your question, how do we create that as culture, is we just did it and we enjoyed it. And we embraced it. It's not necessarily easy.
Yeah.
But it's rewarding, and
that's cool.
So.
Yeah, I love that, because some of my friends will ask me jokingly, Kirsten and I have our first daughter, Lydia. She's 9 months old. So some of my friends will ask me jokingly, they're like, "You gonna get Lydia in the gym with you?" And
well, she'll probably just grow up with it. She won't know that it's not normal.
Yeah, so that's my hope. Yeah, so I love that you talked about that influence component. That's really cool. Because, yeah, I'm not going to be like, Lydia, you're going to the gym with me. You know, I don't want to make something hers that isn't hers. But I'd love if she fell in love with that, like you said, as a normal component of her life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You got any other questions for me?
I don't think so, man.
One more question for you before
Yeah.
we do our final two, and that is, what do you think your life would look like without intentionality?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, number one, I think that my weaknesses would be, in a general sense, my weaknesses would be defining. So like talk about, strengths versus weaknesses, playing to your strengths as opposed to only trying to mitigate your weaknesses. If you're not intentional, you won't know how to tap into your strengths, which means your weaknesses will define you. Because the heart is deceitful above all things. We're broken, fallen human beings. We revert to our least optimized form of existence, I think.
Yeah.
Without intentionality, which means your weaknesses become you. And so for me, those weaknesses are, I would define it as gluttony, not even and not even necessarily with food. My diet's pretty decent.
Okay.
But with anything that I consume, if I'm going to consume it, my temptation is to consume way too much of it all at once. And so, like I said, whether that's social media, TV, etc., my bent is gluttony. So non-intentional bent is a glutton.
There's a verse in Proverbs that says, if you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it and you'll vomit.
Yeah.
And that was mine and Ginger's theme verse or thesis when we were dating.
Yeah.
Was we have a good thing here, but we don't want to cross the line.
Ooh, yeah, that's good.
Because it can ruin everything.
Totally.
But it applies to everything.
That's a really healthy outlook. Yeah, that's good. Shout out Proverbs. People don't read Proverbs enough.
Yeah.
Like I was reading Proverbs 1 yesterday, and I started noticing kind of the flow of the first, I think it's like 19 verses. It's like, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Be a teachable person. Be a good person. And then when these other people come along and try to get you to not be a good person, just keep being a good person. And you're like, that really is all of life. Be teachable, be good, be resolute. Like that's the thing. Like you got to be humble enough to receive instruction from those who know more than you, who have more experience than you, from the Holy Spirit. You have to let that form you into the right kind of person that you should be. And then you just have to stick with it. You have to be intentional. You have to resist the temptation. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. And that's like the whole thing. So yeah, shout out Proverbs.
Yeah.
Love that book.
But yeah, to your point of gluttony.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of saying it. Gluttony with consumerism, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's good things out there, but everything in moderation.
Totally.
Even a whole bunch of honey will make you sick.
That's good. Yeah. And it's that balancing act of, there's the classic debate about, alcohol consumption. It's just a kind of a classic example of this. And so sometimes jokingly, I'll talk, with my students, I'll talk about the story where Jesus turned water into Welch's. Because it's like, everybody, no, that was wine. That was a fermented alcoholic drink. And so we can't be legalistic with it on that side. There are some things that are good for consumption. It's not a bad thing. But then on the other hand, don't be drunk with wine, which leads to debauchery. And so you gotta, that's everything in moderation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. Balance is such a, this is a tangent. This is another Ben Bender opinion. Balance is so important. I think one of the things I've noticed this year, I taught a class on church history with our high school students, and one of the things that just became really apparent to me as I was teaching it is how much of church history consists of a pendulum swing between opposite theologies.
Even churches.
Yes.
You'll see this at the local church level.
Yep.
With their pastor. One will be theology. The next will be people orientated.
Yes.
The next will be theology.
Yeah.
People orientated.
Yeah.
And they'll do this.
Yep.
All the time.
Yeah.
Every 5-6 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And the church for a couple thousand years now has alternated between legalism and flagrance. or profligacy. Like you have Paul writing to the Corinthian church, being like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but dudes shouldn't be sleeping with their stepmoms. Like that's that's a thing you shouldn't do. And then on the other hand, you have Peter, who Paul has to actually rebuke because he's just being crazy. He's insisting that these Old Testament laws still apply and all this kind of stuff. And you see that play out post-Constantinian era. You have Constantine, who becomes really corrupt. You have the monastics, who want to reclaim that devotion, but they eventually become super legalistic. And then we have to rectify that problem in the Reformation and so on and so forth. Like, so much of history is this pendulum swing between opposites. And so I think balance is such an important thing, not just at the meta level, the corporate church level, but for human beings. One of the things that I've been thinking about recently is I want to be a responsive human, not a reactionary human. I want to be somebody who responds thoughtfully, meaningfully, creatively, critically, rather than just reacting to whatever I see, whatever I identify as wrong. I don't want to just react against that in the opposite way. I want to respond meaningfully and helpful.
That's another intentionality.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, which requires patience.
Yep.
You gotta like be able to take a step back, observe things, objectively. Yeah.
Ben, final two. What's a outside of the Bible?
Yeah.
Maybe you would say Bible, number one, number two. I don't know, but
yeah.
What's a impactful book that you've read?
Can I give you 4?
Yeah, give me 4.
Okay. So on leadership, the best book I've read by far, In the Name of Jesus by Henry Nouwen. So Nouwen was a Catholic priest in the 20th century who spent most of his career in academia. He actually taught theology and sociology, I believe, or psychology. I can't remember. Theology and one of the ologies at Harvard. Spent most of his life in academia and felt like that was his calling. That was his ministry. He's going to train future pastors, priests, lay people, et cetera, et cetera. Wrote a lot of really beautiful books, Life of the Beloved being one of them. But he toward the end of his career felt called to serve in a more embodied way. And so he ended up going to be the chaplain at a community called Larch in somewhere in Canada, I can't remember. And it was a community for disabled people, mentally, physically handicapped. And so a couple of years into this, he was asked to come give a talk on Christian leadership in D.C. at some big ministry convention. And this book is essentially his thoughts on leadership in the context of the community where he was working. And so he presents an understanding of leadership that's just so deeply rooted in service. It's beautiful. Like, he's got one quote where he says, "I'm convinced that the Christian leader of tomorrow is the person who can stand before God with his naked self and say, 'Here I am.'"
Wow.
Essentially just saying the effective Christian leader of tomorrow is somebody who's entirely unencumbered by any kind of selfishness or pride, who can just put all of his strengths and weaknesses before God and be like, "Here you go.
Wow.
Dude, make something out of it." And I thought that was just such a beautiful way of approaching leadership. He talks about the 3 temptations that Jesus faced in the wilderness and how Jesus responded to those as kind of a structure for leadership. And so he uses that as kind of a framework to say, we have to be humble. We have to put the priority on service as opposed to profundity, which is really hard for me. I like trying to figure out how I can say things in a profound way.
Sure.
And Jesus just says, nope.
Keep it simple.
Doesn't line up with Scripture, not doing it, moving on. And so yeah, great book. Second one, Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, Carl Trueman.
Rise and Shine?
Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self by Carl Trueman. I think it might be one of the most helpful books. So this is on more of less of a leadership side, more of kind of a cultural theology side. One of the most helpful books for understanding how we've gotten to the place that we're at in culture, particularly with the rise of postmodernism and humanistic theology, or philosophy, sorry. And then he presents, I think, a really helpful way of responding as a church to things like LGBTQ issues, the life issue, in a way that's really rooted in how we got here historically. So not just responding to sound bites and tropes, but actually responding out of a deep awareness of how our social psychology, because the big question he's trying to answer is, if we really want to respond to things like sexuality, the life question, all these things meaningfully, we have to understand how culture even got to a point where some of these ideas would be acceptable. It's like the idea that I could go and become a woman tomorrow. How did that even become an acceptable? How did we get to the point where people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense? And there's a lot that goes into that historically. So understanding how to answer from that perspective. Really helpful book. Pretty heady and academic, but helpful. And then 2 by Lewis, Abolition of Man and Mere Christianity.
Okay.
I love The Abolition of Man so much. It's one of his shortest books. It's kind of a difficult read.
His are so deep.
Yeah. And this one he wrote very much as like an academic essay. So it's deep. But what he does beautifully, I think, is he helps reclaim a healthy understanding of the role that emotion plays in the pursuit of truth. Because there's a number of phrases like facts don't care about your feelings that have become really popular colloquialisms.
Yeah.
And there's an element of truth to that. But one of the things that he says in the book is, he says, someone who is motivated by irrational love for his country is more useful in battle than the most qualified tactician. Like, if I know everything that there is to know about war, but I don't love America, I'm useless fighting for America. And so what he's essentially trying to say is we need to reclaim a healthy way of cultivating emotionally impassioned theological and intellectual grounding. So helpful book, I think, just for understanding the wholeness of the human being in the pursuit of truth. And then Mere Christianity is just, it's class. It's just good stuff. I think that he does such a beautiful job of creating common ground between secular philosophy and Christian theology.
Did you know that one's free on Audible?
Oh, I didn't.
Pretty sure. I think there's a couple of versions, but one's free.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. I've read it a couple of times. That's a great one. That's one I just try to keep in my rotation, because what he says is so helpful for answering so many of the things that we're facing as a culture now. He's got a way of simplifying seemingly complex things. Yeah, really well. So yeah, those are probably my top 4.
That's good.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, I'd say it varies, and I would say it depends on what we're talking about.
Fair.
One I've read recently, there's one I started last week, and I did it last year, but I started again. It's called Personality Isn't Permanent by Benjamin Hardy.
I saw that you posted about that. Yeah.
That book, and I'll just say a blurb about that because it's recent. That book's really empowering, not at all from a biblical standpoint, but that book's really empowering to realize that, a lot of times we handicap ourselves with saying, for instance, I said I'm not a runner. I hate running.
Right.
That was my memo.
Yeah.
For 4 centuries. 4 decades.
4 centuries. 400 Gandalf out here.
That was my identity.
Yeah.
But the premise of that book is you can be anything. If you'll compound effect. If he uses the word purpose-driven life. And if you read Warren's.
Yeah.
Is it Warren?
Yeah, Rick Warren.
Rick
Yeah.
Warren.
Great book.
Yeah. But he uses that phrase, live a purpose-driven life, and you don't have to be handicapped by whatever. Maybe you said it. You said, I'm not a teacher. Well,
yeah.
No, you can be a teacher.
Right.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So that's one recent to me that is like profound. Like, dude, you can do it.
Yeah.
There would be a little scripture in there, but it's mostly used as quotes, not as empowering.
I love that though.
A book that was really influential in my life as a real estate investor, and it would be another mindset book, but most people don't think of it that way, would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yep.
That one really helped me a lot. Another book, I don't want to go off on books too much, but another
I
one
love it.
would be When in the War of Your Mind.
Yeah, Craig Rochelle.
Yes.
Yep, that's on my list.
That is an annual read for me.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because it's a very much Ephesians 5, put off this,
Yeah.
replace with this.
Okay.
That one, yeah, I asked a guy 3-4 years ago, hey, what are you reading? And he told me that, and I ate it up, dude.
Yeah.
And like that was a book we gave away for a couple of years. We just had like
yeah.
a stack of them because,
Right.
And that's how I guess you know a good book is if you give it away.
Absolutely.
If you don't have it on your shelf, it's probably a good book.
Dude, totally.
And that's what's
awesome.
cool about like Mere Christianity is it's a little itty bitty book.
Absolutely.
You can buy on eBay for $3 and
Totally. Yeah.
get it out.
The other thing I love about that book is every chapter is written in like short essay form. So you can almost digest each chapter on its own. Like it builds on each other, but you can take...
Yeah.
I could start at chapter 13 and get a lot out of it, having read none of the previous chapters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. Okay, these are really good.
Ben, final message. You got one message to share.
Oof, man.
What do you want the world to know?
Yeah.
If you had one, if we recorded this, something happened on the way home today.
Absolutely. I think this is one of those things where I think I'd echo your answer about books. Kind of depends on what season I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
But the season I'm in right now is I really just want to ask and answer good questions. And I want to do so in a way that's both critical and creative. So kind of a couple of verses and then a couple of thoughts. In John 1:38, Jesus is just beginning to gather his disciples, and some of the disciples start following him around. And there's this moment where like the impression we get in Scripture is Jesus just like turns around and he goes, "What do you want?" And for a long time, I read passages like that. Well, let me give you this other scripture, and then I'll kind of give you my ethos on it, my thought on it. John 5:6, Jesus is with the man at the pool of Bethesda, and he he's this guy who has wanted to dip in the pool so that he can be healed for a long time. There's nobody to put him in the pool, so he's kind of helpless. And Jesus asked this guy, "Do you want to be well?" And those two questions seemed so off-putting to me for a long time. I was like, Jesus, A, you know all things, so these seem like pointless questions.
Mm-hmm.
B, what do you want seems like, shouldn't you be telling them what they need? And do you want to be well? Like, just seems so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course he wants to be well. He's been laying on this mat for years. He doesn't want to be laying on the mat for more years. And the two things that I think I've kind of started to realize about those questions is, A, what do you want is maybe the most pivotal question that you'll ever answer. Because in Jesus' context, what the disciples wanted determined the kind of experience they were going to have with Jesus over the next 3 years. Because Jesus knows if you're here for the sensations and the healings and the miracles, that's not going to pan out the way you think it's going to pan out. You're going to be really disappointed if you're here for the wrong reasons. So it's critical to answer the question, what do you want? Not even so much because it determines what you get, which I think it does. Mm-hmm. What you want definitely determines what you get. Or at least if you don't articulate that you want it, you definitely aren't going to get it. But even more important than that, it determines the kind of experience you have on the journey.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Bible is very clear about asking.
Totally. Yeah.
You don't get because you don't ask.
James.
Yeah.
James is just the New Testament Proverbs.
Yeah.
Great book. Yeah, absolutely. Ask and you shall receive. Mm-hmm. John 14. That's the King James. Ye. So those two questions, I think that the way that Jesus asks questions provoke such existential thoughts that I've gotten to the point where I'm like, in my teaching Bible, I just want to ask students good questions. Mm-hmm. I want to be prepared to give good answers when they ask me questions. So I want to ask and answer good questions, and I think that to do that well, you have to be critical and creative. I grew up hearing, we want to be critical thinkers, we want to be critical thinkers, we want to be critical thinkers, and you have to be a critical thinker.
Sure.
I agree with that 100%. What I've been thinking about recently, though, is I want to be critical, and then I want to be creative, because I think that critical asks the question, why are things the way they are? Mm-hmm. And creative says, how could things be? Like, critical is analytical. Yeah. Creative casts a vision.
Sure.
And so one of the things that I kind of adopted as a motto for the way that I teach is I want to equip my students to think critically and creatively about Scripture. Because there's some things about the Bible I just don't understand. I'm probably never going to understand.
Well, the beauty of asking the question is you put it back on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you lecture
right
the whole time, you're not necessarily engaging their mind to engage
yes
in the conversation.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too for me is if I can lean into the creative, not just the critical answering, but the creative questioning, what that allows me to do is say, my critical thinking has gotten me to the point where I'm not really sure what the answer is. Because why do bad things happen to good people? I don't know. Probably never going to, there's a lot of theories and answers.
We don't know.
None of them are really
Deuteronomy
sufficient.
29:29.
Exactly. We don't know. But I know that there is an answer. I just know I don't know it yet.
And we
so
might know
creative,
it looking back and 10
yeah.
years from now.
So the critical gets me to, I don't know what the answer is. The creative helps me say, how might God still be good in spite of what I experience? So that's the space I'm trying to live in these days. And that's what I want really my students and just people to be able to live in is the tension of, I want to be critical.
Yeah.
I want to be analytical. And then I want to be creative and optimistic.
Creative. That's good.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of where I'm at these days. Yeah, man.
Well, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
And I guess my final words here would be Ben's 25. I think he's killing it. He's doing a lot. And anybody can do what Ben's doing. It's a matter of being intentional and maybe starting with the gym.
Totally. Start working out. Do a little bench press.
Yep.
Don't skip leg day. That's awesome, man. And start running.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Hey, just wanted to thank you guys for listening to the end. In closing, I just wanted to add that if this message resonates with you, if it aligns with your values, and something in it today triggered something, then you can also look me up on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. We are really trying to help people live more intentional lives to kill the complacency with which they have subscribed to. I know there's many ways which I get sucked in all the time. So if this is beneficial, follow me there, spread the message, share. And if you want to wear a billboard of a message of kill complacency or live intentionally, then check out my merch store in show notes as well. But it's www.mindsetshop.com. Mindset is with an X, so it's MINDXET shop, SHOP.com, mindsetshop.com. Check it out. Thank you guys so much, and have a great one.
Thank you for listening to Kill Complacency. Follow and share our podcast to change lives and inspire growth.